What it mean to be the best? Riding foes, feeling unimpressed. Make me reminisce, throwing bows, bend the corner, set my mind up on the goal. All I know is stay down, bad, I'm the goal. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now there ain't no debate. Yeah. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now there ain't no debate. Yeah. I ain't gotta say much. Know the boy got a touch. Another win for the rush. Another win for the rush. See me once and got a crush. See you twice and that's enough. Get the ring sized up.
What's up? Welcome in Tell the Truth, episode 87. Travis Kelsey's episode. We are back for Chiefs camp, week number 3 at this point. Preseason week 1, it does begin. We did have the Hall of Fame game last Thursday night. We got some Trey Lance, Kyle Allen hoops, which was awful and nasty to say the least. But of course, the Chiefs do have their opening preseason game in Arizona this Saturday. And as a result, we've got some football to talk about and some things to discuss as far as what we'll be looking for in that game and who needs to stand out and make an impression as well, as we've heard progress throughout training camp. But to begin, DG, CJ, how you guys feeling, man?
Feeling good. Football is almost here. We'll be about 30 days away.
If you check the Kingdom Cast Twitter account, we are 31 days away.
Based off our
Chiefs kickoff.
Yeah,
right. From the Chiefs football being back,
in the
31 days away. For those that do not know, that we are counting down a favorite play from each of our, and I say our, including Kingdom Cast and Tell the Truth and Red Shirt Podcast as well. Favorite plays from each of the last 7 seasons. Right now, we're going through boogies. And so, yeah, go and check that out on the Kingdom Cast account. If you ever wonder how far away the Chiefs are away from, or we're away from Chiefs football, go ahead, TG.
Nah, just to be about a full month away from football, from the real thing, from not looking at just practice shoulder pads and
no more spreadsheets,
shirts and shorts. It's a good feeling to almost be this close this way. So yeah, excited to get back to the season for sure.
No, it's that time of the year again. Like DG said, the grass smells grassier, skies are bluer, the heat is heating.
Got a little fall weather.
Fall weather is definitely upon us because you wake up, you see that dew on the grass, DMac, that lets you know it's football season. So me and DG have had the honor and blessing of being able to attend a couple of training camp practices and seeing the guys work hard. And it's just about that time, man. It creeps up on you as fast as football goes away. I feel like it comes back even faster because right after the draft, you're right into mini camp OTAs, and we're arguing about wide receiver 5, 6, and now we're here talking about preseason game 1. So, and then next thing you know, after 30 days, fellas, it'll be week 1. And then we'll be looking at October and everything. So every part of the football season is truly year round and it flies by. So I can't wait for week 1. Super excited to see the guys this week and see who gets to make a stamp and claim and try to earn their keep.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get started here. You're talking about arguing about wide receiver 5 and 6, and
rich people problem. That's what we do. So,
yes, we did have a little bit of NFL news today. Jordan Addison did get his suspension. For those that do not know, Jordan Addison did have his legal case resolved on the same day as Rashee Rice's, which was some convenient news dumping by the Minnesota Vikings. I'll give them that, and Jordan Addison's legal team. He received a 3-game suspension today for a DUI. Different case, obviously, than Rashee Rice. We will still see, anticipating, kind of 4 to 6 games as far as what will end up coming down for Rashee Rice. And hopefully, given the fact that both of those cases were resolved on the same day, we'll hear about what Rashee Rice's plans are soon. I believe they did ask Matt Derrick, and he said that nothing was imminent as far as that news is concerned. So we'll see. That being said, the Chiefs have some business to handle and continue to figure out what their roster is going to look like as we barrel, obviously, to cut down day at the end of the month and 3 preseason football games to get through to begin. One big storyline that I think came out of camp, at least over the last few days, Jawaan Taylor did end up stepping to the podium and talking about how throughout the entirety of last season, he dealt with consistent knee draining after a hit that he took in week 5 of the NFL season. And so he was getting his knee drained every single week to go out there and prepare to play. And I tweeted out basically the fact that Jawaan Taylor played through that injury last year was a massive thing. And obviously he did not perform necessarily even to the level that we saw from him year prior. But the fact that he was able to be a stabilizing force at that right tackle position, considering the fact the Chiefs, frankly, just ran out of tackles last year and ultimately had to go with Joe Tooney at left tackle, was huge. So a tip of the cap for him being able to tough it out and be able to continue to go out there and play. Any thoughts for you guys as far as Jawaan Taylor and that injury? And then we'll kind of talk about that in the broader aspect of the offensive line in general.
Yeah, it goes back to my point that, as fans, we have to understand that we don't fully know what's going on. At certain times, we don't know what these players really go through. We sit here, complain, criticize, and do all these other things, when things don't go the way we thought they were going to go, not knowing that the whole time that they're playing hurt. So it does, kind of give some way for some fans to show some grace at certain points in times. I understand, players are expected to perform up to their abilities, but, sometimes a hidden injury or something like that could be the reason why this player isn't performing the same way, and we don't really know what's going on. To sit there and have to watch a player, get his knee drained, and I've played, and stuff like that. Played with guys that had to do things like that in college and stuff. It's not fun. It's not pretty. We truly have to tame sometimes our criticism for some of these players, and just be cautious about what you say, or whatever. So for Jawaan Taylor to battle through that and to finally come out this year and say that, I applaud him for his efforts for still going out there and try to battle through it for his guys. Man, I don't know. I couldn't do it. So that's just me.
No, everything DG said was right. I mean, Jawaan Taylor's 27? He's in his 7th year, came out of Florida. He's 6'5", 330 pounds. That's a big dude, bro. So if you're dealing with a knee injury, it could hinder you from doing a lot of things, especially when you're protected for a guy like Pat, who we know is notorious for extending plays and keeping you on your man even longer in blocking periods compared to other offensive lines as well. So Jawaan Taylor's been a average to above average lineman since he's been here. Outside of the penalties, which are annoying, partially some of them are due to, I think, unfair critiques of him getting off the ball early when there's other guys that do the same thing, but that's another conversation. I had a feeling he was probably hurt because I would have thought we would have gotten past the false start issue, just the general inconsistencies of him being like the year before was one of his earlier times in the system and learning. So I figured this previous year he would have had a much better better transition time into the offense. So I'm not really surprised that Jawaan came out and said that because he was dealing with that a lot longer than I expected it to. So, I mean, but you got to tip your cap to him and respect to a guy who kept playing, didn't complain, just went out there and did his job every week and played. So, and it wasn't like we had too many other really good options behind him. So, no, I salute Jawaan for going out there doing his job. Obviously, he wants to be better. Everybody wants to see him improve as well, but it is what it is. You got to tip your cap and respect the guy for going out there and not crying about the situation, just going out there and trying to do his best as he can and get the job done. And for dealing with the injury, I think he has a solid year for dealing with what he was dealing with, obviously. So definitely want to see him improve. Definitely want to cut the false starts down and continue to block well and keep the pressures and the sacks down as well to keep 15 clean. But overall, you can't complain too much about Jawaan. Obviously, people are going to look at the money, which I don't know why you guys would. It's not your money coming out of your pocket. The cap is the cap. Guys get overpaid all the time. That's part of football. You got to pay for certain positions. So it is what it is. But no, definitely, like DG said, just be mindful of what you say and what you think. That's someone's brother, someone's father. Obviously, we can have critiques and criticisms of certain players. That's fair. But just be mindful about how you say things because words definitely matter.
Yeah, and look, the reality situation is I've always been, very fair in being able to treat these guys like human beings because you never know what these guys are going through. Like last year, we saw obviously the struggles that Wanya Morris had. Well, it was pretty clear he was playing out there on one leg, and he was doing it because again we didn't have any tackles. So there are things that happen with these players on a consistent basis, playing out of position, which I'll be frank, I still think is happening with Nazeeh Johnson. I don't think that he's a guy that you'd have out there consistently as a corner, and I think he would be a much better safety than he's shown because he's really good as far as zone coverage in that aspect of it. It feels like that's where he's more comfortable. But Najee Johnson is somebody that's continuing to develop in the National Football League, and that's what all these guys are trying to do and get better. Or in a veteran's case like Jawaan Taylor, just make it through the season. And so it may be easy to say, hey, this guy is just going out there and struggling, so we're going to make him a target and pile on him. Well, you never know what they're going through. CH was another example of that, was going through a lot of stuff that we never knew about throughout his time here in Kansas City. And he put his head down and just tried to make the best of it, even after, suffering what proved to be really a devastating injury his rookie year after he got off to a good start. So you never know what these guys are going through. And that's why I think that they're in a world, especially a social media world of attacking players and acting like these guys aren't human beings. There is a level of being able to critique guys and say things about where their play is at and being real about that without, dehumanizing them, because you never know what they're trying to go through. So, and that certainly applies to what Jawaan Taylor did for this team last year and being able to help us get to the Super Bowl. And hopefully he doesn't have to do that this year and can provide a healthy level of play. Regardless, obviously, of what we think that this is probably going to be a contract year for him, and maybe not staying in Kansas City past that time. But that, in the larger context of the offensive line, I think that because of everything that Jawaan Taylor has gone through, that I think that, some of the early talk as far as is a right tackle competition, does Jalen Moore have a real chance to take that spot away? I think that's overblown. I think that they have been very particular about bringing Jawaan around slowly and making sure that they're not putting too much on him to begin camp from that standpoint. He's a veteran. He knows, the system. He's played here for a while. I think that they have gotten Jalen Moore useful snaps at right tackle and left guard, specifically to prepare him for the hopeful not eventuality, but somebody getting hurt and needing to be available and versatile in multiple positions. So I don't think it's a real position, or I should say competition. I think that Jawaan Taylor has the right tackle job. Jalen Moore is just getting ready in case he has to play there as well. Do you guys feel that way as far as the offensive line in general? Or do you think that Jalen Moore has a chance to steal a spot away still?
Yeah, I think Veach went into this season knowing that it's best to be over-prepared instead of under-prepared. I think last season you kind of relied more so on, what you got in the draft and previous drafts before, and that didn't work for you. So now go get a veteran, go get a guy that you feel like can play multiple positions in Jalen Moore, that's played, that has NFL experience, and can be versatile in those positions, so I think it's always best to have multiple guys that have great depth. At the end of the day, if you build great depth in other positions, at the cornerback position, at the safety position, receiver position, all those positions. And I think last year you kind of went into last year not being fully prepared for what was going to happen to your offensive line. And I think Veach went in the offseason wanting to correct that. So, like I said, all credit, to him and his staff for going out there and trying to find available options to bring in here to be able to compete and push these guys. And knowing that, it makes guys, up their level of play. Knowing that, there's a guy out there who's a bitch that he could take your job at any point in time, and they won't hesitate to make that move. So, you got to go out there and play to the best of your abilities.
Go ahead, CJ.
No, I agree. Jawaan Taylor, like I said, 7th year in the league. We know this is probably the last year of his deal. When you look at body types, Jalen Moore is very similar. Jawaan Taylor 6'5", Jalen Moore 6'4". Jawaan Taylor 330, Jalen Moore about 320, both 27 years old. Jalen Moore has been in the league 5 years. Jawaan Taylor has been in the league 7 years. So Veach obviously has a type. So when you look at these players, very similar builds. So if we had to step into whether it be this year or next year, and you're asking Jalen Moore to play that situation, you can see the type of body style that Veach is looking for at a guy at right tackle. Obviously, a veteran, guy who's been around and been in the league, a guy who can play multiple positions if need be. Me and DG saw that firsthand in camp. From the first day of reps that I saw from O-linemen, they had Jalen Moore getting reps on both sides of the line, left or tackle or right tackle. So obviously, we know Andy Heck and even more so Andy Reid preaches versatility and being able to do multiple things on this roster, which obviously you have to do as any player, because the more things you can do is going to keep you on the field. So I think Jalen Moore is in position to get the right tackle job, not necessarily this year, but I think having a guy like DG said in the wings ready to go if injuries does happen, knock on wood, we don't want to go through that again, but you don't want to have nothing as an ace in the hole and ready as a backup when that situation comes. Because last year, the rotation of linemen was bad, and we saw the protection issues that the O-line struggled with pass pro as far as run blocking, and then it hurt us in the Super Bowl as well. So having a guy like Jalen Moore is invaluable, and having multiple guys who are going to gain experience like Wanya Morris as well, even though he struggled, that's still experience and reps that he needed to get better and to show things that he can improve on. So having him and Jalen Moore as the quote-unquote swing tackles for this offensive line, I think those are good situations to have. So if we do have to have anyone step in for spot duty or a certain period of time during the season, you can do that. So I like the way the O-line is set now, and you're setting yourself up for next year if you want to move off certain guys' contracts and move guys up to starting positions. So I think we're in a much better position now than we were last year. You have your left tackle of the future in Josh Simmons. You have two swing tackles if need be that need to come in. You locked up Trey Smith. You locked up Creed Humphrey. And obviously Kingsley is probably one of the only – that's probably the more of a question mark for me than Josh, because as ability-wise, I was never really worried about Josh. It was just more so just can he be available? And so far, so good. So I think the next biggest thing for me is just seeing Kingsley progression and how does he do in live action with live bullets coming at him, since we haven't seen him since Week 18 versus the Broncos. So
I'm still not entirely sure if Patrick Mahomes will allow Wanya Morris to run out there and play at a tackle position in which he's still playing quarterback. But we will see. Hopefully we won't have to put that to the test, of course, obviously. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the offensive line shuffling that'll happen later on. But I think, DG, you made a really good point as far as there is a level of, hey, now there's a shorter leash because we have a real option behind you. And maybe the Chiefs kind of felt that way going into last year with Wanya Morris, and that's why they yanked Kingsley Suamataia. I don't think they should have felt that confident in it personally, but obviously that went the way it did. This is now a situation where Jalen Moore, because of his multi-position versatility, which we expect is, hey, Jawaan Taylor, even though obviously we know what you dealt with last year, you have to maintain a certain level of play to stay on the field this year. Josh Simmons, if you're healthy and you're at your talent level, then good. But we are in a position which we want to win now. And so that is at least something to push. Same thing for Kingsley Suamataia at left guard. So personally, I would not want to pull Josh Simmons in any way, shape, or form, but that's just, that is going to be a piece of it, of saying, hey, there is a level of offensive line play that we're trying to maintain, and the depth with this team should allow us to do so, of course, in that aspect. Moving on from some of last year's injury news to now catching up on some of the current Chiefs issues within the medical tent. The Christian Fulton knee continues to be an issue, as he has stayed on PUP, has not started his training camp practice at all to this point. And also kind of the big one is Hollywood Brown also dealing with an ankle issue at this current moment in time that's kept him out pretty much since last Thursday, I believe, technically. Obviously, this would suggest that you're not going to see either one of these guys, certainly Fulton, on Saturday. I want to ask you guys a quick, kind of 1 through 10 concern level for each of these guys, and, when you kind of want to see them back to feel good about them playing on week 1.
Hollywood, I would say probably like a 3 or 4. I'm not too concerned. I think it's more just the Chiefs being cautious at this point, and they kind of know his injury history. And kind of ultimately what happened last year. I didn't expect him to play any preseason games anyway.
Exactly. Healthy.
Exactly. Yeah, healthy or not, I thought he probably would dress out maybe for some of them, but probably wouldn't get no significant snaps or anything like that. The Christian Fulton knee injury I'm probably at like a 7. I'm oddly concerning just because that wasn't known to us when he got signed. I'm not sure if that's something the Chiefs knew at that point in time. I'm assuming that they did or whatever, and they went through all it, but they kind of kept that private. And then all of a sudden it comes to training camp and he's not going to practice. It was just kind of weird how the situation was kind of handled to me. So at this point, I don't know if he's going to be ready. And even if he's able to come back like after the training camp period, I still don't think that Spags is going to be comfortable with thrusting him out there week 1 in Brazil on a knee that just got scoped, maybe a couple months ago or whatever at this point. So especially with, how complicated and how much communication and chemistry is needed, for you to play at that position in Spags' system. I think you missing out on training camp days is kind of vital at this point. He's not getting those reps. So it kind of concerns me to put him out there at a point where you're you're gonna start your season. You're on a quest to try to accomplish a goal that you weren't able to accomplish last year. So it's very concerning for me.
CJ, where you stand with those guys?
As far as Hollywood, like DG said, I'm not really as concerned. 3-4. I didn't really want him playing any preseason games, even if he played every day in camp, regardless. So get his ankle healed up, get that cleaned up. Obviously, give him all the time to rest because we don't go to Brazil for another 4 to 5 weeks. So give him all the time he can to get back. Christian Fulton, I'm not as concerned. I'll probably say right now I'm like a 5. If he's not practicing at all by the time we get to week 1, then I'll be probably closer to a 7. But overall, I love the DB depth, kind of like we just talked about O-line. I just wanted to see have more guys. We know depth is king. You got to have guys that are available to play. So even if Fulton can't go, that's why you bring back guys like obviously Najee and Josh and Jalen who have to step up. And obviously you bring in guys like Noel, and everybody's trying to compete for a spot and get a job. So I think having more guys back there, the better, because obviously it'll give us more abilities to use other guys in different spots and have multiple guys be available, because last year we didn't have that many guys because J. Watt was dealing with an injury. Najee played through his injury as well. So a lot of guys were trying to overcome adversity, which we appreciate that, but it kind of left us high and dry because we didn't really have the body. So I think this is an opportunity for guys like Christian Wallace to step up as well, who we saw slight plays from him last year. So I think it'll be good in this position. Obviously, we've had a lot of rookies play in big moments when needed, like Josh, Jalen, and Najee all played big and huge snaps for us their rookie year. So if need be, Noel, I think, will be just as ready. I think he's more talented than probably any of the rookies we drafted since Trent. So obviously I'm very high on him. So I think if we had to put him in a more needed position early on, I think he'll be ready to do so. And I think Christian as well will be ready to step up. So I'm not really as concerned about either one. I would hopefully we get answers about those guys before we get out of the second preseason game when we go to Seattle. So I want to see those answers. But the one I'll probably be the most annoying injury, DMac, would probably be the tight end one, just because it's Jared and it's Jake Brenningstool, the two guys that I was expecting to come back and have significant snaps for us behind Noah. So the fact that Rob Tunyon, who's 30, how old is he now? 35? Yeah, 35 years old. That's an older guy. So being your tight end 3, that's not at his peak, he was really, really good, in Green Bay, but that was 4 to 5 years ago. So I was hoping, obviously, like most fans were, that Jared Wiley or Brenningstool would step up and pop out as the tight end 3 for the offense. Obviously, those guys have missed snaps, but I think Jared Wiley did come back today, so that was good to see him back in practice. Obviously, our tight end 3 is going to get significant targets. You just want guys to be available to have the body there to, run your 3 tight end sets and run the ball and use your play action off of that. So not really too concerning now, because we're only, officially 3 weeks into camp, and we're only at the first preseason game this week. So I think once we get closer to week 1, fellas, and we start seeing these guys become more available, become more healthy, and they're more active in practice, if they're still not doing anything by then I would be more concerned. So nothing over a 5 for me right now for most of those injuries.
Yeah. I'm somewhere around a 2 for Hollywood Brown. I'm moderately concerned, but he turned his ankle. So, if it's something where he's not back next week, then I'll have some concern. But outside that, if it's anything past, or if he's back by then I'm not concerned about it. Obviously Hollywood Brown had what was really a freak injury last season that took him out for most of the year. This is obviously unrelated to that. Long as he's back next week, I'm not tripping over that. The Fulton one is probably a 5, and maybe getting up to a 6. And the reason why it is more so just about the cornerback depth on the team as far as that's concerned, because we haven't really heard anything great coming out of camp as far as Noah Williams are really flashing, as far as a rookie is concerned. Seen a clip here or there, Najee Johnson making a play. Also seen some clips of Najee Johnson having some tough times as well. Same thing. We haven't heard anything about Joshua Williams stepping up in what is a huge year for him. He's about to head for agency. Jalen Watson, obviously, you running with his first team, but it's nothing like it. He's standing out from that aspect. And there's still the nickel conundrum, in which we've seen a lot of Shamar Connor getting that work early on as well. So we'll see. That's really the Fulton thing. I think that he is a key piece and a big piece for this defense that finished top 5 as far as scoring defense last year. Still top 10 as far as DVOA and yards allowed were concerned. Can this defense get back to that level or even be better? It's going to hinge a lot, in my opinion, on what the cornerback play looks like, in addition to the secondary pass rush, which we'll talk about in a bit. So Fulton's about a 5 or a 6. Hollywood Brown's like a 2 or a 3, and we'll see how it progresses as we get deeper into camp and past these preseason games as well. And I agree with you, CJ, as far as the tight end room is concerned. Like that's a concern because you would hope that Jared Wiley, who did come back today, or Jake Brenningstool, who's dealing with that hamstring on a consistent basis, one of those guys be able to push for the roster. It doesn't seem like we'll probably see Brenningstool at least get some action here. In this preseason game. And obviously we know Travis Kelce's older. We know what Noah Gray is. So we'll see. And Robert Tonyan, Trey Watson, and Spivey seem like they're going to get some chances here coming up on Saturday as well because of the tight end issues. Before we move on, we did get some breaking news. The Chargers have signed back Keenan Allen to add to their wide receiver room after they had signed Mike Williams, and then Mike Williams retired. And Kendrick Lamar-Smith and Trey Harris got drafted into their wide receiver room. So we'll see the reunion of Keenan Allen back in the Chargers uniform after a year. And in my opinion, he was overused in Chicago and really held back their offense. But it is what it is. They obviously have some thinning depth chart space right now.
Signing Keenan Allen just for him to retire 2 weeks from now. Sounds like a Chargers thing to do. Keenan Allen should not play significant snap for the Chargers at all.
They may not have a choice.
Jesus Christ. Is that bad? All right, Jesus.
They may not have a choice. We'll see.
I know you
go
know
ahead, DJ.
Omarr, but Jesus.
You know that girl like down the street, bro. You just can't stop messing with her, man. Like you just, I shouldn't really be messing with her, bro. She's toxic, man. Like
she mean.
She be talking about me, and then you just go right back. Like they done it twice. Like
sign him, let him go. Sign him, let him go.
Mike Williams, come on back. Come on
he
back.
Retired
okay.
like a week
You
later.
retired, okay? Keenan Allen, come on back. We'll take you back. We love you here.
That's funny.
It's just hilarious to me. They keep going back to the old well and
bro, Chuck. That's what I'm saying. Like
Quentin Johnson.
Forgot about QJ. QJ still there.
Like you draft Trey Harris, you bring back Quentin Johnson. I know you lost Joshua Palmer, but is that bad? You can't find nobody else to be the wide receiver for?
It goes to show you how badly they think of Quentin Johnson.
They signed Keenan Allen, bro.
They said, you know what?
Keenan Allen is old.
You can't do this, man. This kid can't get.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. You would think that QJ would be able to slot into a role in which he can work off that, and obviously Trey Harris. It appears that it hasn't come to fruition. Yes, Colin Cowherd did pick them to win division. Colin Cowherd did pick them to win division. In my opinion, they're the third best team in this division. I think the Broncos defense is significantly better. I think the Broncos offense will be at a similar level, and I think we're a better team than both of them. But it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening from that standpoint. You threw me off with the girl analogy. I was.
It's essentially what it is. You just
stop fooling with kids.
Yeah, bro. Hey, bro. Look, listen to me, dog.
Leave that girl alone.
You gotta leave her alone, bro.
Block her number. Delete it.
No, she ain't good for you, bro. And you just be like,
I just nothing. Stop doing it.
It's just something about her. It's just something about her. Like
you crazy just like she crazy. Both of y'all crazy.
I'm banned from
Keenan Allen.
Actually, let's go to here. I'm banned from talking women on a public forum. As far as Tyquan Thornton is concerned, and the Chiefs wide receivers, now since we were on wide receivers from that aspect, Tyquan Thornton, of course, is having camp clip after camp clip come out of him making plays. I think that it is important to kind of talk about it because Tyquan Thornton, obviously, we talked about him having a really good spot. As far as being able to try and push for this roster, given the Rashee Rice suspension aspect of it, given the fact that he does have the return experience on top of it, the fact that he does have the speed to bring downfield and the ability to do a little bit of size alongside of it, I'm not necessarily buying into the hype all that level yet. I want to see it in a game specifically. But it is good that he's now getting these opportunities due to the fact that Hollywood Brown has been out. Obviously, We say Worthy missed a day or two at least, but he's really pushed himself into the position in which he's running with the ones pretty consistently. I would say ahead of Nico Remigio at this current moment in time, and making some plays from some Patrick Mahomes passes. So, I don't want to say that I'm buying the hype, but because I want to see it in the game, but I think it is worth noting what Tyquan Thornton has done to this point. Where do you guys stand as far as his push as far as beginning on this roster and maybe trying to make an impact on this roster?
I'm not surprised by what he's doing, honestly. We all saw him at Baylor. We saw him in New England. He can run. That's non-negotiable. The kid's fast. Can he catch the ball in game scenarios is the biggest question. A lot of fans make jokes saying this is MVS Jr. I kind of agree. This guy that can run. He can take the top off the coverage, make your DBs respect him. But like DMac said, can he do it when the lights are on? So that's the biggest question with him. So obviously things change when you're in a different scenario, when you're playing under Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And like the clip today, a great catch by Tyquan, even better throw by Pat. Most quarterbacks can't make that throw. So the fact that he did made Tyquan's job easier to go out there and lay out and make a great play. So he does have an open opportunity to make this roster, DMac, just based off the things that you and DG just said. Rasheed's suspension is pending. Hollywood dealing with an ankle injury. And obviously most of the other receivers you have a rookie in Jalen Royals and Juju, who's an older receiver. Then you got Xavier Worthy, who we have such a big workload with his play style already. So Tyquan definitely has a path towards making this roster just based off those three things alone. On top of the fact he's a guy that's going into year 4 coming out of Baylor. So he's been around. He's a semi-vet, so he kind of knows how the league works. And obviously we know we want to get the most out of cheap value as far as receivers and having guys in that room, and having depth is king, like we just said, for the other positions. So I think his path towards making the roster is very clear, obviously, because I expect us to keep 6 receivers. He'll probably be one of the 6. And on top of the fact he's probably one of the tallest receivers. Yeah, he is. At 6'2", 185, probably the tallest receiver we got right now of the guys that we project to make the roster. So I think he has a good path to make the team for sure. On top of his return game, too, which I didn't expect him to fully do, but he can't return the ball.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I wasn't as big on the hype at first, just because you bring in so many guys. At a certain point, you start thinking it's just another guy for them to bring in. To see what kind of see what he has. But kind of going out there to St. Joe's and watching some of the practices, he seems. I mean, he gets his reps. Like he seems to have really impressed the coaching staff up until this point. I will say, to attest to CJ's point too, his speed is real. Like he's one of the faster guys, definitely out there. So it wouldn't surprise me as well for him to be on this squad, to kind of provide one of those aspects to this team. Speed is one thing you can't teach in this league, and Tyquan Thornton possesses a lot of that at this point. I think he's also a guy that's more than willing to play special teams as well too. Seems like Dave Toub really likes him to be able to put him at a gunner position as well and use him in that aspect too. So we'll see. Obviously I'm rooting for him as well. To be a guy I know that's probably been doubted. Was a second round. I think he was a second round pick, right?
Out of Baylor, I think he was.
Third.
I know he wasn't a first.
He was day 2 for sure.
So day 2 pick, a guy that a lot of people I know at this point have doubted in his career. So,
second round. Good job.
Yeah.
Second round.
So we hopefully, he makes the roster and finds his home here. Sometimes you go to certain places and it just doesn't work out. There's not the right fit at that point in time. So, God brought him here for a reason. So hopefully he's here to help the Chiefs, get back to another Super Bowl and hopefully end up being in Levi Stadium.
All right. Look, I again, the ability for him to return, I think, is important depth for this team. The ability for him to be a speedster down the field is useful. I think that we talked about some of the aspects of backups for the wide receiver room. Like, we know Rashee Rice is going to miss some games. I think that Jalen Royals and Juju can do a little bit of the Rashee Rice aspect of it, but you don't really have a great speed element to really get down the field. Like, Nico Remigio can kind of do that, but Tyquan Thornton legitimately does bring that aspect of the game. So if you see that translate into the games, I'll be happy to see that. And then I can see why that would be an asset, and it's getting used in camp. And you got to say that he's getting the snaps with the ones and he's making plays. And that is a big piece of, obviously, Patrick Mahomes' trust that needs to be earned by any weapon as far as this offense is concerned. So moving on to the other side of the ball, we've heard some defensive line hype. I've been a little bit interested. We've seen a lot of Omarr and Lott getting snaps with the one that obviously we saw when we were up there at camp. The ability then for him to make an impact, I haven't heard a bunch of. I don't know if you guys certainly saw it yourselves. However, we have heard or seen a lot of Ashton Gillotte being able to put some moves together. He had a really good one-on-one rep spin move against Joshua Simmons, in which he caught a stab from Josh and was able to spin off of it inside as well. Obviously, the pass rush power that he does bring to the table is a big thing about it. And this relates to some of the larger defensive line conversations that we'll get into. But for both of these guys, I mean, have you guys changed any aspects of where you guys felt that they fit into the team coming into camp, since you've heard maybe some things as we've started camp to this point?
Not really. Omarr, Omarr, I kind of would expect to have more of an impact than Ashton at this point. I just think that the interior part of this line, there's more leeway for him to get in on the roster or get in on the starting lineup in that aspect, just because of what he provides from a pass rush perspective in the interior. You haven't had, besides Turk Warden in certain situations or whatever, you haven't had that running mate next to Chris that could help him out, absolve some of those double teams. And take kind of some of the pressure off of him and be disruptive. So, of course, you expect guys like Mike Pennell and Jerry Tillery to come in and do their jobs and be veteran guys. But, I think Norman Lott could have a potential to really grow and learn, especially playing next to one of the best defensive tackles we ever seen in this game and having an impact. Ashton, on the other hand, I think it's kind of a wait and see situation. I think this year you may see him kind of a rotational piece and see how he blossoms. But then, going into the next years after this, I think his growth will really start to show. But he's obviously shown great things. Him and Josh Simmons have been going at it all camp up until this point. I'm starting to get on the trend that hopefully they still like each other. Because
friendly competition.
Yeah, how much they've been put up against each other, but I'm going to assume that they still like each other. I hope that's the case. But iron sharpens iron, so if both those guys can make each other better, then all the better for us.
No, I agree. I like the fact that I'm hearing things about Omarr gaining weight, so I think that's good for him. Because obviously, if you want to be an every down player, you have to be able to not only rush the passer, which is his strength, but you have to be able to stop the run. Obviously, he came in here at 6'3", 315. So obviously he was a little slimmer when he played at Tennessee. So the fact that he's gaining weight, he's probably being closer to 330. That's a good thing to hear, because it means he's going to be able to play all three downs. And I think he'll immediately help us in the third down pass rush situations like DG just said. So having a guy like that will bring extra juice next to Chris. Anytime you give a guy that can win his one-on-one next to Chris Jones, is going to make the D-line even better. And then you have guys like George and Charles and Felix and Mike Dana and everybody fighting for a job and trying to fight and prove themselves, not only for this year, but for years to come, because a lot of guys are on one-year deals trying to either get extensions or get a contract in general for the next situation they'll be in. So I think Omar's overall in a good spot, because he's probably the best player he's ever played against with his whole life, being Chris Jones, and playing with him every day is only going to make you better as a player. And you're going to learn so many things from the vets and everybody around him. And Charles Omenihu, who's already gave his praises for the way he uses his handwork and being able to win one-on-one and beat blocks already. So I think Omar's hype is warranted. I think he's going there and proving that he's a second-round pick, so we expect immediate expectations out of you, an immediate impact, and he's doing that so far in camp. Now, like DMac said earlier, we want to see it in games when the lights are on. So I think Ashton overall is a lot of people have seen his bad clips, which isn't fair, because I've seen him do some good things as well and win a lot of good reps in camp as well. So, but the D-line room is deep, and I think there are a lot of guys that can make plays, and everybody's fighting for their lives. Like Mike Dana, this guy that's trying to fight for snaps, and Charles Omenihu, and guys are fighting for their money. Like I said, not only for this year, but for 2026 as well. So I think Ashton's in a great situation to learn from these guys, and he knows he's going to be here for the next 4 years on his rookie contract. So why not soak up as much knowledge as possible? And like to DG's point, I think we'll see that impact maybe second half of the year when guys start being more comfortable, get past that rookie wall, more importantly, getting past the bye week when they get to be more in tune and more detailed and fine-tune what they're doing wrong and build on their strengths by that point in the season. So I think right now Omar's warranted, hype is warranted for sure. I think he'll have a greater impact, and just kind of wait and see on Ashton. But I'm super excited for Omarr. I think he could be an immediate impact for us, especially on third down.
Yeah, like I think It's tough for me. I'm concerned still about the Omarr Norman Lott gaining weight thing. Like, if it does help him and he doesn't lose anything as far as pass rush juice is concerned, then obviously it's a positive. So that's another thing that you're just gonna have to see as far as that is concerned. Ashton Gillotte, looks like the guy that I expect him to, and he can get caught is because he's not an overwhelming athlete, because he does lack a certain level of length, but he does have real power and his ability to get after the passer. And so I haven't changed really my viewpoint on them from anything I've seen out of camp. But hey, Omarr Norman Lott is going to have a chance. Really, both of these guys are going to have a chance to be able to prove themselves as we get into preseason games, to see the least. So before we do kind of talk about that, I did want to kind of quickly mention Nate Taylor earlier today talked on Only Weird Games. I'm sorry, I have to do this properly. ESPN's reporter Nate Taylor, of course, friend of the show, did talk about Felix Anudike-Uzomah's kind of current standing as far as the roster is concerned. Said that he was battling with Malik Herring and Janoris Robinson as far as being able to kind of secure his spot on the roster, and then also have an active game day spot as far as that is concerned. I am concerned about Felix at this point because we have not heard much of him coming out of camp. I think that we are to the point where Felix Anudike-Uzomah is this is going to sound alarmist, but it is meant to. Felix Anudike-Uzomah has to have an impact, a real impact, as far as being able to be dominant, as you assume that he would get backup, snap reps against a backup second team offensive line versus the Cardinals, etc. throughout this preseason, for me to feel good about where he's at. It's just at that point. And I said it coming into this year, this was going to be a make or break year for Felix, who was obviously a 2022 first round pick going into his third year. If he is not dominant versus second string offensive lineman, I have no reason to believe that he's going to break out, and ultimately he's probably going to end up being a bust. And that's just where I'm kind of sitting with it at this point. And this is to say, like, training camp doesn't always say everything, and obviously you can't see every snap, et cetera, we'll know. But when the games come, he's got to make an impact for me to feel good, because at this point, somebody had asked the question on Twitter, like, is CEH or Felix like a worse pick? I think it's very clearly Felix, because CEH was able to make an impact his rookie year and continue to at least be a serviceable member of the team afterwards. So Felix is, it sounds like, on the roster bubble, to say the least, as far as what Nate Taylor kind of talked about. And at this point, I got to see something from him during preseason as we talk about who needs to stand out as well. So how do you guys feel about FAU and his standing with the Chiefs right now?
Yeah, obviously, being a KC kid and being from here, you're obviously rooting for always for your hometown guys, but it's getting rough, man. It's getting to a real dark place, especially when you see the unofficial depth chart kind of come out and he's behind Ashton Gillotte. Obviously it's unofficial, so we don't really know how true that really is, or what the coaching staff really foresees for him. But yeah, man, I feel like this is a make or break year. You got to be able to figure it out in this point in time. It's year 3. I think you got to kind of take the training wheels off and kind of see where he's gonna land. But if you haven't seen nothing up until this point, then I don't know where else to really kind of go with it right now. Some guys come into this league and they make names for themselves, and some guys come into this league and they just become another guy. Not saying that's going to ultimately happen to Felix, but it's ultimately up to him to go out there and improve himself. And I think he's got a great opportunity and chance to do that here this year, especially early on here in preseason and first couple of weeks of this year. So if he can go out there and make an impact when he gets his snaps, when he gets his opportunities and chances, we'll see where his feet land at a certain point. But yeah, it's all in his hands right now. To go out there and perform to the best of his abilities and do what he can to stay here and be here long term in Kansas City.
No, I agree. He's a young kid, obviously. Came to us at 20. He's 23 now, third year at K-State, so obviously has a lot more room for improvement, a lot of room to get better. He showed flashes at times of making plays, but nothing really big, highly impactful or consistent. He has to go out there and dominate. And like I said, you have a great opportunity this week, like DG and DMac said, against 2s and 3s. So if you can't flash off the screen and make a pop and get in the backfield, get some TFL, get some sacks. If you're not getting that this week or the next coming weeks, the 2 weeks after that, like for the Seattle Seahawks and the Cardinals, it's going to be hard for them to prove why you deserve to be on this roster. Obviously, with a first-round pick, a lot of expectations for him, and obviously some people are for the pick, some people were against it. But regardless of the situation, he's here now. This is your third year here. You're in the system. You should be well-equipped, well-immersed with, and be comfortable with the call that Joe Cullen's going to make in the rotation. So you got to go out there and put the profit on the field for us to see. So if he's not going out there getting pressures and getting sacks and getting TFLs and, like I said, not popping off the screen saying, hey, we got to keep him in the rotation or keep him on the roster, you're not really showing any benefit because obviously D linemen don't really do special teams too much. So he has to show something these next 2 weeks to go out there and prove and show why he was that dominant player in the Big 12, again, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. So go out there and show who you are, Felix. You have all the opportunity to do it this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I hate to be harsh, I hate to be alarmist from that standpoint, but this is, hey, everything's in front of you. You got to show up when the lights are on at this point. So, and again, we saw some flashes for him last year where I thought that he did improve, but there's going to be a real leap. And he's got to show some dominance, in my opinion, as far as we get into preseason. And then oh, that was weird feedback. And along those lines, we can obviously get into talking about preseason week 1 versus the Arizona Cardinals. And I did want to start out just kind of by pointing out what Andy Reid kind of tends to do as far as snap counts as far as this is concerned. So these are the snap counts. I think this is, shout out to Nick Jacobs over there doing great work. I went to from last year's preseason versus Jaguars week 1. Obviously, the first team offense in the beginning, pretty much just a series. We obviously saw, unfortunately, that Hollywood Brown injury off that first catch from Patrick Mahomes as well. You saw first team, starting line got a series. Same thing for Noah Gray and Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, and Mahomes and the main weapons as well. I would expect that to continue from that standpoint as well. And then you'll see mostly the second string and third string as you get further into the game as well. Pretty much the same story as far as the starting defense was concerned. Obviously, you see Trent McDuffie got limited snaps. Same for Drew Tranquill, Brian Cook, Mike Dana, George Karlaftis, Shamari Connor, who was starting in that nickel spot as well. I think Chris Jones just didn't play in general, which, makes sense. No need to put Chris Jones out there. So again, series I would expect from both sides of the ball. Obviously, mainly the offensive guys will be that first string offense for a series. And then, we'll see as far as who the defensive guys, Chris Jones not suiting up would not be a surprise in any way, shape, or form from that aspect. But obviously, you expect the main guys, the Trent McDuffies, the Drew Tranquills, Nick Bolton, to get a limited amount of snaps as far as we get into this first preseason week 1 game. So I just want to ask you guys kind of a quick question just to preview it. Like, who do you think needs to stand out? Give me one guy on both sides of the ball.
Both guys stand up.
Oh, I definitely did not show any of those snap counts as far as I was concerned. I forgot to put it on screen. I'm sorry, guys. I was describing some of you.
All good. Y'all know what he meant.
That's okay. Yeah.
Offensively, a guy that needs to show out for me is Kingsley. That's the really only question mark I have. Well, obviously, Josh's health ability to stay healthy is the other one. But as far as like just going out there and dominating and showing their play on offense, it definitely Kingsley Suamataia for me. He has to go out there and show he can be available for one. Go out there and he doesn't have to be dominant. Obviously, we don't need you to be one of the elite left guards in the league, but just be serviceable. Be a guy that doesn't give up too many pressures, that's good in the run game, and be that athlete that we know you are when you're playing in space and use and play to your strengths. So he's the guy on offense that needs to be good for me. And then on defense, who needs to have a high impact on defense? I would say it's a lot of guys to choose from. Who do I want to pick from? Is he playing? No, he ain't playing. I'm trying to think of guys who are going to play this weekend.
Wait, who are you thinking of?
I was going to say guy like some of the guys that are coming off injury, but I don't think they're going to play. I think like Drew, but he's not doing anything.
I doubt you see Drew, which we did have a little bit of conversation about Drew and some of the injuries this week coming up. We'll see if he ends up playing, but I doubt he will.
Yeah. I'll say the biggest one for me would probably be kind of like we just said, Omarr. He has to go out there and prove because he's going to get a lot of snaps. He's going to get a lot of reps early, obviously, because like he's playing behind guys like Mike Pennell, who we know is not going to play. He's a veteran. Jerry Tillery is going to get a lot of reps as well. He's going to play. So Omarr is going to get a lot of reps from the jump. So he has to go out there and prove why he's a second-round pick and go out there and show everything he's been doing in camp and see it under the lights now. So he's going to be, obviously the light's going to be on him when he plays next to Chris Jones. So why not go out there and dominate now and show some of those pass rush moves that he has? So those would be my 2 picks: Omarr, Norman Lott for defense, and Kingsley Suamataia for offense for the trenches.
Yeah, I would say offensively, it probably be the rookie running back to me, Rashard Smith.
Let's go, Shard.
Shard is kind of flashed in some preseason practices, so it'd be nice to see it put to some game time situations and see what he obviously can do. He's obviously going to get a lot of reps as well too. Just being, I think, was he 3rd or 4th on the depth chart, I think, at this point. So I would assume that he probably gets a significant amount of snaps. Kind of excited to see what he can do in the passing game as well too, and using that speed. So excited for that. Guy on the defensive side, I think the guy we just talked about, Felix Uzama. Really big opportunity here to kind of showcase, what you've been able to develop over these last couple of years being here in Kansas City. And, obviously we know where he kind of stands with the coaching staff at this point. So it's a chance and opportunity to go out there and prove a lot of doubters wrong, so hopefully he can go out there and do that. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can be able to put together, and hopefully he has some great success on Saturday as well.
Yeah, I think obviously the trenches on both sides of the ball are kind of a given, like up and down the line. Obviously, Kingsley and Josh starting is going to be a big thing. Where Jalen Moore plays, how long he plays. I'm personally going to be watching Vesapoli because I like him, and I think that he has some upside as far as the tackle position is concerned. And Hunter Norzad as well from an interior offensive line position is going to be fascinating as well. Jalen Royals versus Tyquan Thornton from the simple standpoint of who can make an impact with the first team specifically, I think is going to be interesting. Who gets those snaps, because it may just be Juju at that point, along outside with their, Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. We'll see. But, who they choose to put in there, and can either one of those guys make an impact really with the first or second team is going to be fascinating in that aspect. Who stands out the running back position? I guess all 3 of those guys outside of Kareem Hunt, because you got to know what Kareem Hunt is. Pacheco looking healthy. Elijah Mitchell will be in that burst. Rashard Smith. And then, like I said, other side of the ball, the defensive line is a given. You can pick any number of those guys as far as that aspect is concerned. But I will be looking at the cornerbacks because we haven't heard many things about guys making a push. Jalen Watson coming off the injury issue was going to be a question mark. How much are they using Shamari Connor in the slot is going to be a question mark. Can Noah Williams make an impact? Where is this cornerback room without Christian Fulton is going to inform a little bit of how big of a worry I have about Christian Fulton, to be perfectly honest with you, as far as this game upcoming is concerned. But yeah, so that's kind of how we feel as far as a preseason game for you guys to watch. We will certainly be coming back here next week to break down where things stand. We'll have a new 53-man roster projection after that preseason game, and obviously some weeks of camp to go off of, as well as we look to see who will end up making an impact, in the desert on Saturday as well. DG or CJ, anything before you go ahead and get on out of here?
I think. They officially announced the ESPN and NFL merger.
Yes, that is supposed to be going into effect next year. ESPN is, or I should say, the NFL is getting 10% stake in the ESPN as a company, which is fascinating. NFL Network is going to continue to stay on the air. NFL Red Zone will keep Scott Hanson, for those that had a concern about what that was going to end up looking like. Scott Hanson is staying on.
I ain't going nowhere
past this year. But that will be broadcast over ESPN channels, which will be fascinating to see how that ends up working out. And then ESPN Fantasy will be merging with NFL Fantasy, which I saw some things on NFL Pro, so we'll see if that ends up coming to fruition too. But yeah, I think that might be all. CJ, anything?
Nope. Just get ready for some preseason football. Guys, earn some money. Got to get your money time this week. Special teams are key. Special teams.
Yes, it absolutely is. The return, who's going to be returning there is going to be fascinating. Who can stand out as far as preseason? Obviously, Matt Ariza has won the punting job, so we'll see any improvements from him as far as that is concerned as well. Though, if he doesn't have to punt at all, that would be pretty cool.
Let's score some points.
If we didn't see any punts, that'd be nice from the Chiefs side, but we'll see. As far as being out there in Arizona for a team that is up and coming and feels like it has gotten better and added some talent and wants to see some improvement. So I think it'll be an interesting test for the Chiefs, particularly as far as kind of along the offensive line. They got some guys that can get after the pass for now. So we'll see how the Chiefs offensive line kind of holds up against those guys as well. So without further ado, man, appreciate you guys for coming by. Like we said, we'll be back next week with another 53-man roster projection, recapping that Arizona Cardinals preseason game and talking about where some of those roster guys stand out and we'll see who is, making some headway as far as the battles are concerned. Appreciate you guys for coming by. Peace out. Go Chiefs.
Chiefs.